Good afternoon to you all. Thank you very much, Prof, for extending the invitation to me. As already introduced, my name is Admanyika. I'm a lead GMP inspector with the Medicines Control Authority of Zimbabwe. At this particular juncture, I'm also the inspections coordinator with the Zazibona Collaborative Initiative, which is just a grouping of regulatory authorities in Southern Africa. I'm a pharmacist by profession with experience working in the pharmaceutical industry as production pharmacist, as well as research and development at the later stage. I've been a regulator for the past 5 years working with regulators in the SADC region. And of course, I've had an opportunity to also work with other regulators from the WHO, UK, MHRA, TGA, among others. So my task this morning is to just summarize what this whole concept of GMP is and its application as far as the cannabis that we are talking about, as well as herbal products. Okay, so just to bring the background to say, the industry that we are getting into, or the industry that we are in, is quite a well-regulated industry. So one of the things that, of course, we have to comply with are the regulations and the guidelines for a particular country. We have guidelines that have to do with good agricultural and collection practices. This could be national, and this could also be international. And of course, we have what we are talking about today, which we are saying good manufacturing practices. Before we started, the prof was talking about the C that comes before the GMP. This is just to say that good manufacturing practices is not a static position, but they have to remain current. They're always changing. You may be compliant or meeting the requirements today. It does not necessarily mean that you meet the requirements tomorrow. You have to keep up with pace as far as science is concerned. So the last bullet point is just talking about different legislation in different countries. In particular, this one is for USFDA, where we are saying that companies must comply if they're doing investigations with particular acts in a particular country. Okay, so at the end of the day, what is the expectation? What is it that we're supposed to do? The Canadian Act says that a manufacturer is supposed to establish, manage, and monitor quality control assurance systems to ensure there is always consistent and safe cannabis products that are unadulterated for the market. And then when you go to the WHO GMP guideline, it will then say that the manufacturer, that means the owner of the company, the management, you have a responsibility to make sure that you produce products that are fit for their use, meeting the requirements in the market that we are going to market. So it's very important that as you get into this business, have a global perspective. Ask yourself, where do I need to take my product? What are the requirements in that particular market? So that when you develop your plant, when you buy your equipment, when you develop your systems, you are not only complying with national requirements, but you're also complying with international guide requirements where you intend to export your product. Okay, so as a manufacturer, as you develop herbal products, as you develop cannabis-based products, you need to comply with applicable national monographs. You need to ensure that you have systems in place that control contaminants. These are your pesticides, elemental impurities. Think of mercury, biological contaminants that could be there. Think of that you need to control the content of your THC and be able to have reliable methods of identifying the same water content, foreign matter, chemical contaminants that could come from as you extract your product. All these aspects are very important as you build the quality into the product. So it's not just about you testing the end product, but it's about you having practices in place that builds up to the quality of the product. So what is GMP? GMP, I would equate it to quality. These are good manufacturing practices that helps you to build up the quality into the product so that the end product does not have what we have already indicated. So in simpler terms, GMP, I always tell people it's common sense. Sometimes people want to complicate it. and bring very difficult terminology. But in brief, GMP is common sense. You are doing GMP on each and every day. Just think of yourself washing the body. Why do you do that? Because you want to have a clean body. At the end of the day, you're going to have bad odor. The same thing applies about cleaning your plates at home with soap. Why soap? Why an adequate amount of water? Because if you use soap or detergent and you don't have adequate amount of water, your plates are going to remain with residues of soap, as an example, and you're going to put food there. So right there, we're already talking about cleaning validation. How do we ensure that our cleaning processes are effective and they are reproducible? That if an operator A cleans the machine and operator B cleans the machine, we are going to have the same end result. That is already GMP. If you are going to look at your phone, most of you have got passwords, you have got patterns. What are you doing? You are protecting certain information that is outside. We're already talking about computer systems validation. Because at the end of the day, there's information that must be protected, that must be stored there. You back up your data. That is already GMP you are doing every day. It's exactly the same principles. Why do you have to cook your meal for a particular time? It's because you want to have a quality end result. So in short, everything that you are doing every day, you are applying certain principles that give you a reliable outcome. Okay, so that is GMP. So what is it in scientific terms? These are systems or principles that are put together that when they are followed consistently, they will always give us a determined outcome or a quality profile that is expected. So good manufacturing practices relates to what? It relates to production. It relates to quality control. I'm glad someone is going to talk about quality control of herbal teas at the end. But those are the two issues where GMP comes into place. Why GMP? Why these principles? Why follow them? It is because we want, number one, to have consistency. Number two, we want to have guaranteed quality. Number three, we want to make sure that the products we take out to the market, they are safe and they are effective. That is why we are emphasizing on the need of GMP. Think of conventional products, your paracetamol, in the same way you would think of cannabis-based products or even herbal products. This relates to the active pharmaceutical ingredients, as some of you are going to be involved in the development just of the active material, which is going to be developed in different dosage forms. But some companies may even go further to develop the dosage form. GMP principles or good manufacturing principles apply to both processes. So these principles apply both to conventional medicines as well as to cannabis and herbal products. Why am I saying that? Because these two classes of products are going to be given to the public. Remember, the objective is to ensure that our people, the people we are supplying with the product, always have quality products, products that are safe, products that are not contaminated, products that are not degrading. So these principles are helping us to deliver that quality product, regardless whether it's a conventional molecule or it's a cannabis-based or a herbal product. So at the end of the day, our patients are expecting a quality product, regardless of where it's coming from. But more importantly, I want to bring to the fore to say, herbal products become even more complicated. Why do I say so? There is a lot of variation as far as the weather conditions is concerned. There is a lot of variation as far as the water supply is concerned. There's a lot of variation as far as the soils are concerned. So there is even a greater probability that the same plant grown in different areas can actually have different contaminants. Hence, even the more we need to apply the principles of good manufacturing practices so that at the end of the day, we have a product free from mercury, free from pesticides, free from any form of contaminants that we could think of. Okay, so why GMP? I've already covered this. GMP is there to protect the patients. GMP is there to protect the business. I'm going to talk about the business towards the end of my presentation. GMPs ensure quality products are developed consistently. GMP ensures there is consistent in production processes. Okay, so the application of the GMP principles from the time we have a dried leaf until we do the extraction up to the end, that application, the testing and everything will ensure that we have a good product at the end of the day. Just a synopsis of the manufacturing process to remind each other. I think, Prof, when we're starting to talk about, most of the people are there in the cultivation and harvesting and they end there. But this thing goes beyond that. There is the actual drying and curing of the leaf. There is the actual extraction and the processing, and there is the actual quality control that actually happens. Okay, so where does GMP fall? Remember, I said there are different legislation. There are acts, legislation, guidelines that relates to the issue of cannabis growing and processing and investigation. So there are guidelines that strictly talks about the cultivation, the harvest, and the drying. But GMP, this is in reference to the EU guideline as an example, where there's part 1 and part 2. This just relates to the active pharmaceutical ingredient, in this case, which is our THC, or the finished product, that is the final dosage form that can then be consumed by the patients. So you find that the GMP process is, or the principles are starting from drying, extraction, further processing, and packaging. That is what GMP is looking at. What drying method are we using? Do they drive out all the contaminants? Are they safe? Are they not bringing other cancerous metals or exposure to this particular leaf? As you are extracting, what kind of molecules are we using? Are we not even bringing residual solvents that even can cause harm to the patients? What kind of processing method are we using? How does it protect the integrity of the active pharmaceutical ingredient, but also at the same time, the final product? What kind of packaging is suitable? That is what GMP is looking into. So yes, GMP is applicable to this particular process because it is a manufacture of a product that is medicinal value, whose effectiveness, whose safety, and whose potency must be guaranteed. Imagine yourself taking a product which you don't know whether it's going to cure your condition or not after having spent money. So when GMP is followed, it guarantees that the outcome is there. And this process applies even to research and development, where you're actually building up the quality into the product. So a synopsis of the major principles that must be followed as you get into this business. I'm going to touch just a few of them. One of them is the premises design. You need to design your premises in such a way that complies with national and international guidelines. As you start into this business, you want to export to Canada. What is the position of Canada as far as premises are concerned? What do they expect to find? Okay, is it an open field or is it in a controlled environment? That becomes very important. Number 2 is the quality management system. What is the responsibility of the quality assurance manager? It means there should be someone who is responsible for the quality system with documented procedures. What is it that they monitor? How do they train their people? All these things must have been written down. Sanitation and hygiene is another principle. So as the inspectors are coming to your facility, they want to see, how do you clean? What do you use to clean? What is the frequency of cleaning? Where do your people wash their hands? What do they use to wash their hands? How do we know they're going to do this all the time? Those issues must have been documented. You want to export product to Europe. Do you have a system in place for receiving complaints? How do you record them? How do you investigate them? Who is responsible for investigating them? Are they qualified for doing this particular kind of a job? So there should be something written about how you are going to handle complaints. As an example, someone is going to talk about quality control, But you have written procedures. When raw materials come in, how do we test them? What tests do we do? Where are we getting them from? Is it an approved document? If we finish manufacturing the product, we want to confirm the THC level. What do we test? How do we test? What kind of equipment are we going to use? What evidence is there that the machine can produce the results over and over? I'm talking about qualification, validation of the equipment. It means you must have a documented procedure on how you prove that my machine will always produce consistent results. Personnel and training. So you see, all these elements are building up to make sure that you've got one product that is of the right quality. With the right people, they will follow the right procedures, and they'll make sure you almost always have a consistent result. So what kind of people do you have? What records do you have of training your people? What subjects have you found that are necessary for you to train your people? Someone is going to talk about the equipment, so I'll not cover that now. So you see, all these elements are there to ensure that you always produce the right product. You dry your product in a particular way. If operator A is there, what process are they following, and how is that producible? How can someone else exactly do the same? I need to move a bit fast here. So I'm going to quickly run through 10 golden principles. I've already covered most of them. Number one, pay attention to the facility design. Document your processes. Validate your process. What is to validate? It is to confirm that if I cook sadza or rice in this particular way, we will always have the same result. That means you have to write down your process, you repeat it 3 times, and demonstrate that we will always have the same result. Apologies. Write good procedures and follow them. Train and develop your staff. Demonstrate they've been trained. Demonstrate that they can actually do the work. Practice good hygiene. Maintain your facility. That means you have procedures of pest control, procedures of cleaning, procedures of continuous maintenance. Perform regular audits on your own. Check your systems against guidelines. So the real golden rule as far as GMP is concerned, when auditors come to you, they are saying, what is not written is not done. No matter how good your process is, no matter how good you say it is, you must write down each and every procedure. Who did what and when? Who checked it had been done? So this just gives a hierarchy of the documents you would find at a facility, your quality manual. This is the high-level document where the management is committing to make sure that the product that they produce are of quality. What is it that they've done concerning premises, concerning people? What is it that they're committing to? You're going to have policies in place. Then, of course, operating procedures for everything that you do, from the simplest thing as cleaning, operating a machine, up to manufacturing the products. Of course, the batch records, the testing records, whatever you're producing must be following a documented and pre-approved procedures. So you must write down everything. That is how we ensure consistency. I'm not going to talk about this, but what I just wanted to say was, if your things are not in place, inspectors are going to come, they're going to find shortcomings. Most of them, as you can see, they have to do with cleaning procedures that have not been proved that they work. Failure to document your procedures. Manufacturing process is not validated. See, it's always validation. Prove that your process work, document that your process work, among other things. I'm chasing time here. Let me see if I can quickly play this. What is the message in this small video? The message is you have to prepare. You have to leave GMP. You have to leave the principles. You don't leave them for auditors. You don't leave them for just for compliance. You leave them for your pride to ensure that all the time you have quality products. I think I'm left with 2 slides, then I'm done. Let me just run through this.
Bob Smith. I'm here to perform a regulatory inspection of your facility. My authorization. I need to meet with your quality assurance director.
I want you to take a seat over there, please.
Code Red, compliance inspectors on premises. Begin emergency procedures for housekeeping, SOPs, and documentation. I repeat, compliance inspectors in the building. Code Red.
After all, it's not about getting ready. It's about being ready, isn't it? Being ready for a regulatory inspection means always paying attention to these three key areas of compliance: housekeeping, SOPs, and documentation. By having outstanding housekeeping standards, following SOPs to the letter, and taking care to maintain accurate, timely, and traceable documentation, you'll stay in full compliance with GMPs and compliance regulations. That means you'll be 100% ready for a compliance inspection at all times.
All right, so that is the take-away message there. Quality is built into a product, and it is an everyday activity. You don't prepare for an audit, you live compliance. This starts with management, with good supervisors and well-trained people and well-written procedures. Your people needs to know that the company is quality conscious. So when auditors come, when you're checked for compliance, you know that you are confident that the products you're producing are of the right quality because you're living it, you are breathing it. It's part of your everyday life. So it's very important that management people live this kind of life. So why GMP? Why the fast? Why is it necessary? Number one, let me remind you that if your company fails to comply, you are going to have to recall your product. Maybe it's a company in Zimbabwe, you send your products to Europe and they'll tell you the product is contaminated, we don't need it here, you have to destroy it. You would have made loss. Substandard products give bad publicity. If you don't train your people, if you don't supervise them, if they don't follow written procedure, if you don't build that culture, people will know sooner or later that this particular company produced bad products. It's bad for you, it's bad for business. You are going to spend a lot of time investigating failures. Most of the time, you will not be able to know the problem because your people don't follow procedures. You don't know where you went wrong. That is why it's very important that your people follow procedures. Cancellation of licenses. Imagine you have an export license to Canada. Because of these issues, you can't figure out what actually went wrong in this particular batch. They're going to cancel your license. After having invested a lot of money in testing equipment, in greenhouses, it will be a disaster. Importation suspension. You took a loan from the bank, you started this business, you've made your projection, all of a sudden you can't import. Why? Because your products are not of the right quality, your products are not stable on the market, your products are showing change in color, your products do not meet the specification for the THC content, your products are not labeled properly. All these things will affect your business. But if you have consistent testing methods, consistent manufacturing method, trained people, well-documented procedures, experienced supervisors that are always monitored with management support, you can avoid all these issues. Those are some of the references. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope I'm not too far off my time.